Mark Rogers, TV, talking Miami football. The Canes get it on against Georgia Tech. The Yellow Jackets come into this one at 3-1, 1-0 in the ACC. And, of course, Miami, fresh off that Florida State win in Tallahassee. Last-minute heroics from Malik Rocher and company. They're 4-0, and we bring in Alonzo1219. You can join him there on his YouTube channel. Just look up Alonzo1219, the U family. Alonzo, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Mark. How's it going with you, brother?
I'm doing just fine. I appreciate you jumping on, doing these hits for us to give us some insight into Miami football. So I watch the games, and I watch the big games, but I can only say so much. So it's great to have you in here to give us some insight into the personnel here. So, of course, Florida State's a monumental win. It's great, but you got to move on to the next one. And this is kind of a key Coastal Division matchup against a Georgia Tech team that finished 9-4. They won the division and went to the ACC championship game back in 2014. What are your thoughts about just the Georgia Tech program? Not necessarily this particular team, but under Paul Johnson, they typically get to bowl play. They usually win their 8 games or so, and they've been a pretty decent program.
Never an easy out. Paul Johnson is a heck of a coach. He gets his guys always very well prepared to play. And like you said, you can't look at last week. Florida State game was a big game, but that's last week. Now you have to try to move forward because that was a big win, but it wasn't a win on your side. Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech and North Carolina's on your side, so you have to take care of business against Georgia Tech. The option is he runs it very sound. He has a lot of speed on it. His quarterbacks typically can throw out of it. Tight ends are very versatile. His H-backs are always versatile. So you have to be able to stay in your lanes. It's disciplined football more than anything. Speed can dominate it, but you can also run yourself out of lanes, and then they can cut up field and be gone in a second. So you have to be very disciplined, have to stay in your lanes, and understand exactly what Paul Johnson likes to do. He's kind of a madman. He's kind of the Mike Leach of the option.
Yes,
he has so many different wrinkles to it. So he's very good at doing it. That's why they give so many teams fits even when they play them. When they play SEC teams like Georgia, they give them fits. It's never an easy out playing those guys. So you definitely have to respect Paul Johnson and what he brings, what kind of offense he brings to the field every Saturday.
Yeah, he's definitely carved out a niche there where we're just used to seeing this offense played by the service academies, and basically they do it because they don't have the type of athletes that they can attract to run, line up, and go right at you, or the passing offense where they can spread the field and have those kind of athletes in space. So it's a disciplined offense that they can run. But Paul Johnson, he's a mastermind at it, and he's done very well at Georgia Tech and pulling off some major upsets and having his team in postseason play almost all the time there. Taquan Johnson's a quarterback who's taken over the system from Justin Thomas, the 3-year starter last year. I saw them play Tennessee. That was opening night on that Labor Day, and they did everything they possibly could to run Tennessee out of the building, but kept missing field goals. Had a couple key turnovers. They kept Tennessee in the game, and the Vols somehow pulled it out. But they looked like Georgia Tech, the much better football team in that one, and now they're coming against the best team that they're going to face this season in Miami. I got a stat for you, Alonzo. I don't know if you've seen this because the Miami defense, I saw the Florida State game, I saw the Duke game, very impressive in those two showings, but the defense is 12th in the ACC in third down conversion, meaning they can't get off the field. I was a bit surprised to see that. I don't know if you've seen that stat and if that really relates, or do you just think that doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now?
No, it makes all the sense in the world right now. I don't need to see the stat to know how bad we played on third down. Against Toledo, we could not get off the field at all. Even against Bethune-Cookman, it was driving on us, and it's like, I don't know. Last year we had stronger, like Cornell, we had stronger corners. This year we're playing some freshmen and everything. So I feel like he was trying to work those guys into the system, not wanting those guys to get beat deep. We went to a lot of zone on third down this year, which most time on third down he would blitz. So those first couple games, especially against Toledo, but like I said, against Bethune-Cookman, it wasn't pretty on third down. They're ranked where they deserve to be ranked there right now on third down, because they definitely was playing bend but don't break. So now they got better against Florida State. They got better against Duke at it. A little bit more blitzing on third down and on second and third down, trying to get them against the chains. But it was some plays, man, when I was watching, especially against the Toledo, when it was 3rd and 15 and, you know, playing bail coverage and those guys getting first downs on it. So the stats aren't lying on that. We definitely need to improve on 3rd down situations.
We've got Alonzo1219 on the line. You can catch his YouTube channel right there. Just search Alonzo1219. It's the U family, and he helps us out with Miami football with the Canes of the big Coastal Division affair against Georgia Tech. The Yellow Jackets at 3-1. The long form conversation, the audio you can catch on Podbean, iTunes, and Stitcher. Just search Mark Rogers TV. So Taquan Johnson, I mentioned him at quarterback. They've been playing extremely well despite the loss of Dedrick Mills to a suspension early in the season. He's the kid that ran for $169 and a couple touchdowns in the bowl game against Kentucky, but they've just keep on plugging in players and keep marching on. So based on what you've seen out of this defense for Miami, they can't get off the field. Your concerns about going up against a team that's not going to hit you for 40 passes through the air, 400 yards, but going to stay disciplined, run the triple option, and run it to a T.
I'm not too concerned just because of the style of offense. They can sneak the tight end behind you. They've done that before. They can sneak that running. They love that wheel route. That's one of their favorite plays. So they can sneak that running back out of the backfield. But I think that as the season, especially with the Florida State game, I think that Coach Manny Diaz decided to, on 3rd down, we're not just going to sit back and let those guys dictate we're going to come at you. I'd rather get beat that way. But the key thing for us right now is the loss of Cedric Redwine. And how do we? I think he's out for this week. How do we replace him with a bunch of freshmen? Who's going to step up and go in there and take his spot? Right now, I have no idea who that is, but that would be my key concern on defense right now. Is if he doesn't play, how do we handle that? But like I said, I think that Manny Diaz he kind of settled down a little bit because he's a very aggressive coach, and it kind of shocked me the way we were playing early in the season. But sometimes it takes a little time to get used to, especially when you're playing two new cornerbacks. So I think we'll be fine. But you still have to worry about the tight end going down the seam and that H back on that wheel route because they love to throw those passes. And they always, for some reason, they always have great wide receivers. I mean, for some reason, they have big, tall, strong wide receivers. It kind of baffles me. Like, I look at some of these guys that go to Georgia Tech, like, why would you want to go there and you're not going to catch the ball a lot? And then they end up being NFL Pro Bowlers. It's like, so they have the talent.
After Calvin Johnson, I'm forgetting names here. Waller was one of them. I'm not coming up with the name. Snelling was another wide receiver. But yeah, they've got about 3 or 4 guys right now playing in the NFL, even with Charles Johnson retiring a couple years ago. Calvin Johnson retiring a couple years ago, that, yeah, they go to Georgia Tech. They catch like 15 passes a year. They're usually like 30-yard passes, but they're only like 15 receptions a year. But he keeps getting like a couple guys that you've got to respect in the passing game because they'll suck you in with the run and they'll go deep about when they throw it, they stretch the field. They go for the jugular. They're not dumping it off typically. They rank high in yards per reception, but they only throw it. They want to throw it about 15 times, and that's about it. But they will hit you for big gashers.
And it always seems to work that way. It's like you just don't. It's hard to dictate their offense because they can throw the ball when they decide to, and their quarterbacks are always pretty accurate enough to get the ball to the receiver. So Miami definitely has to be very disciplined this week.
I'm checking out last year's game, the recap, the box score. I remember watching this one. Canes won at 35-21. You jumped out to a 2-touchdown lead at half and pretty much just fended off Georgia Tech in the second half and stayed ahead. But it's amazing how these college football teams change year to year because, of course, you had Brad Kai at quarterback. Mark Walton didn't have much of a game in this one. They really shut him down, but Joseph Yearby had a decent game. Stacy Coley was the main wide receiver catching most of the passes then, and it's just been a personnel turnover, and obviously Amon Richards, you hope he's okay and ready to go. Mark Walton out for the season, unfortunately, probably the best back in the ACC. So Travis Homer, he's
very good. He's a sneaky back. I mean, he could be. I mean, don't Hurricane fans don't get mad at me for this, but he could be just as good as Mark Walton and actually a little bit more explosive. So Travis Homer is definitely a very good back. Our problem is depth at running back. Receiver wise, I think we're pretty good at receiver. For some reason, last year the game was, even though we jumped out to a 2-touchdown lead, 2 of those touchdowns was by the defense. And our offense really didn't. We put up 21 points against them. Our offense didn't put up a lot of points against their defense. Their defense is always real stout too. So we have to make sure that our offense gets off to a fast start and make those guys uncomfortable and do things that they don't want to do, like have to throw the ball. You get to a 2-3 touchdown lead on them, make them uncomfortable the way they have to throw the ball. Then that's how you can beat a team like Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Joe Jackson with a big fumble return in that game. Michael Pinckney had a pick as well. Yeah, 35 points for the Canes, a little misleading in defeating Georgia Tech last year in Atlanta. Of course, they line up again in Miami with the Canes trying to extend its record to 5-0. Is there anything we've missed in this one? Anything that is going to interest you in taking this one in and seeing if your team's still making progress?
Well, my main thing to see this year is the maturation of Coach Richt play calling. It's kind of mixed with me. It's mixed. I feel like he can get a little bit more aggressive. I think sometimes he dials it back a little too much, and it gives the other team more confidence. And I get a lot of guys get on me about, give them time, this and that. But I like to see our tight ends get utilized a lot more because we always have tight ends. I just see a few different routes, even in the Florida State game. I forgot what commentator said it, but he was saying even in the second half he changed it up a lot, but in the first half it was just all the routes were simple. They were just simple routes, quick slants, or nothing misleading, no kind of tight end going this way and receivers. Everything just seemed simple. So I like to see Coach Richt, be more of an aggressive play caller.
So I'm curious, Alon.
Great coach.
We went back into the archives in your YouTube channel. We went back about a year and a half to when Mark Richt was first hired. I heard the comments made on both sides. Mark Richt's a winner. He always churns out 10 and 11 win teams. He's good for Miami. Of course, he's an alum. He understands the program, the culture, the atmosphere. He's going to be a perfect fit. Then I heard Mark Richt. He blows the big games. He never wins the big games. Yeah, he takes great talent and he plays down to the competition. What was your initial thought when Richt got the job?
Both.
Yeah.
Both. I mean, I live up here in South Carolina. I moved up here for my job. I've been up here for like 16 years now. So I watched the big losses. I'm in the middle, the heart of SEC country, and watch him play against South Carolina and lose some games against South Carolina when South Carolina wasn't good. Watch him, not win games that he probably should have won. So you have to weigh both sides. A lot of people don't want to weigh both sides when the coach or the players on your team, you only want to see the best out of them. But you have to pay attention to everything. 10-win season in SEC is phenomenal. But at the end of the day, if you don't win the big one and you're at a program for a long time, that's what they're going to look at, especially in college football. They're going to look at how much talent you had and did you win the big one. And Hurricane fans are the same way. If you're here for 5 years and not in the national championship picture, not there, not playing in the playoffs, or if you're consistently losing big games, Miami Hurricane fans can say what they want to say. They'll call for your head because they do it. They will do it. They will call for your head. You have to win. I mean, you get paid a lot of money, so you have to win. As a coach, it's your responsibility or your job. You have to do your job, which is produce. So people aren't going to just be happy with 10-win seasons at Miami. Now we have 5 national championships. They're not just going to be happy with 10-win seasons. It's just, I'm a realist. I'm a Miami fan, been one my whole life, and I know how Miami fans are. They're not going to be happy with 10-win seasons. They'll be happy if you win a national championship and only score 17 points a game. They'll be good with that because you won. But if you're getting beat 21-17 in games and you're not putting up the points and you're not winning big games, they'll eventually call for your head.
Hey, Alonso, I totally get it when you make the comment right out of the gate that yes, I agree, and yes, I agree, because I got a different perspective than you. Obviously, you know the program, you know the culture there at Miami, and then, like you say, living in South Carolina and being a big college football fan, checking out the SEC. I've got the national perspective. I cover a lot of SEC games and was actually in SEC country as a sports director down there for 6 years, covering Ole Miss, Alabama, and Mississippi State. But Mark Richt, if the ball bounces the other way in the 2012 SEC championship game, in which he got very unlucky against Alabama, his team played a great lights-out game. Keith Marshall, Todd Gurley, Aaron Murray, and crew. And they played a great Alabama team to the wire. They were 4 yards short. They were one play short. They were 1 second short. You could fill in any of those blanks, and if they had one more play, they go and probably just annihilate Notre Dame in the national championship game. So that's to his credit that he didn't get the bounce of the ball, and it would have been, from following this, Alonzo, when you can mark down a national championship next to your name as a coach, then the narrative completely changes. But then the critics might say he should have been in that position 5 other times, and he wasn't. It was just that one time he got to that place.
And that's what they look at. Look at Les Miles. He has a national championship. It's what have you done for me lately? League on from college all the way up to even high school is what have you done for me lately? And when you consistently get those top recruiting classes, I don't think no one is going to expect you to be Nick Saban, but they do expect, they do expect some greatness. You win one, maybe they won 2, but people pay a lot of money to go to these games, and that's what they expect. And I love what he's doing for what Mark Richt has done for this program. You can't ask anything. He has brought everything to this program, and I would not wish for another coach right now, period. I would not want another coach but him. I was on the fence when we hired him, but I would not want another coach but him. But I definitely want him to be more aggressive as a play caller. It's anything. Just like Manny Diaz had a great year last year. The defense would play lights out that last year. The stats this year show something different. So you want to get better. You want to get where you're at. You always want to get better. So as a team and a season ticket holder, as a fan, you want to see a team. You want to see a team do better. Everybody wants their team to be Clemson and Alabama right now. That's what everybody looking at. Everybody wants their team to be Clemson or Alabama right now. That's why I want mine to be Clemson and Alabama. Period. I don't want them to be third to Clemson. I want them to be Clemson and Alabama. That's where you want your team to be at. Right? And it takes time. It took the Dabo time. They wanted to run Dabo out of town. Up here in Carolina, they wanted Dabo Swinney. When Steve Spurrier was beating him all them 5, 6, 7 years, they wanted him gone. Clemson stayed with him. He made a few adjustments. I think he was calling plays on offense I think it was offense. He hired an offensive coordinator, hired a bunch of key assistants, and 2 back-to-back national championships. I'm probably going to be in his 3rd one this year. So it takes time. It takes time. We've been down for a long time. It takes time to build a program. So I'm definitely not expecting it.
Exactly. It looks like Dabo's going to get back there. And unless some team from South Florida can derail them in the ACC championship game.
I believe I'm going to tell you, Mark, we're going to meet him there. I believe we're going to meet him there. I really believe that we have the talent, we have the coaching, we have the ability to meet them in an ACC championship game, and it's up for grabs from there. But me sitting right here, I can honestly tell you, after watching the first few games of the season and watching how Coach Richt in the second half called those plays in the second half against Florida State, I really believe that we can meet those guys in the ACC championship game, and it's up for grabs. In North Carolina, believe me, if we meet them, I'll be there. It's up for grabs, then I think we can meet them.
It's a one-game deal in Clemson. I don't think anyone would argue, as you just said, is one of the 2 best teams in the country. But in a one-game situation, we saw North Carolina push them 2 years ago, and Virginia Tech pushed them last year. And sure, they escaped, but they were pushed to the hilt. Maybe not to the last few seconds, but 1-possession game, 4th quarter late. And both of those teams, talking UNC and Virginia Tech, were kicking onsides to try to get the ball back and win the game. So they were pushed pretty well, and this would be a more talented Miami roster than the Virginia Tech or the North Carolina roster that took on Clemson the last 2 years. All right, Alonso 129. As you can see, he knows his Miami football. He loves college football, and he knows it start to finish, so you got to join him there on his YouTube channel. Just look up Alonzo1219. Alonzo, we appreciate you laying down the knowledge for us.
Man, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for giving me this platform. I make sure I let all of my fans know, all of my friends as well. You know, please check out Mark Rogers. It's a ton of college videos that you can go see. You just can't be a fan of one team. You have to. I sit up late night sometimes. I'll watch UCLA play. I'll watch Wyoming and Boise State play.
That's it.
At night, I'm sitting on the couch. I enjoy college football. It's just the excitement, just all the different atmospheres, and watching the people go cuckoo. And it's probably the best sport in the world to me is college football.